So it's officially a new year, and 2023 will see New Hampshire gearing up for another First of the Nation primary. Plus, there will be the state budget battle up in Concord. Lots to look forward to and talk about this morning. Scott Spradling is here to help us peer into the fog of the months ahead and see what might happen. So happy New Year, Scott.
Happy New Year, Adam.
Thanks for joining us. Let's start with Governor Chris Sununu.
Sure.
On Seinfeld, it was the summer of George. I think we can call last month the December of Chris.
Yes.
Right? He was on CNN with a big special, did lots of national interviews, clearly building up that profile for a national audience, introducing himself to a lot of people around the country. What's he getting at?
So why not Chris Sununu, I think, is where we can start in a New Hampshire conversation. The practical reality is he's got a budget cycle. He's got work to do for the next 6 months. It'll be busy. But he can walk and chew gum at the same time. He's a smart guy, and he's already done this 3 times prior, so why not? I think at this point, the Republican Party nationally is still trying to figure itself out, right? Donald Trump or not Donald Trump, what wings of the party? Chris Sununu adds a very interesting flavor and flair to that conversation. He's arguably more moderate, but still a conservative. He's younger. He's got good energy. He's a governor, which has been popular in the selection process in previous years. So he does bring an interesting moment to the table, and he has fearlessly said, not Donald Trump. He could be the tip of the spear of reform, even if he's not the nominee.
Right, maybe taking some heat there.
You bet.
We'll see if he even takes legitimate steps towards a presidential campaign, but there's a cold hard fact here, and that is the Republican Party nationally is never going to nominate a pro-choice candidate for president. So how does he work around it? He's got to know this.
Yeah, so, and I think I would have to say I'm afraid of the never kind of drawing the line in the sand, because I would have never believed in the very early days that Donald Trump would have been the establishment of the Republican Party. So all bets are off when it comes to these conversations, but you bring up a good historic point. The Republican Party is more socially conservative, especially in those early Republican belt states, Bible Belt states, where he has to do well. He'll have some real challenges, but is there enough positive appeal to overcome something like that, given the law of the land as it stands right now?
It'll be interesting to see what he's up to in the months ahead.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears to a problem that is really becoming more high profile, but it's been around for a while, and that's the one of homelessness.
Sure.
Obviously, we've had this situation with individuals who are homeless passing away in the cold, and now we have Dennis Eckersley's daughter giving birth to a child on Christmas Eve. What are your thoughts on this? In particular, that situation with Alexandra Eckersley. This is someone, it's a name we all know.
Yeah,
it's on Christmas Eve, a child being born. So there's elements of this that really bring a human face that we don't often see.
That's right.
So what do you think was going to happen and arise out of this?
And I think you start at the right place. We've now suddenly rehumanized this conversation. Now, I do work, for full disclosure, I do some publicity work with families in transition. So there's a bit of an epicenter of the conversation, at least in Manchester. What I have seen sitting at the table of folks trying to do the problem solving is that this is not a single community conversation. I've seen Mayor Joyce Craig, I've seen Police Chief Al Aldenberg, I've seen Fire Chief Ryan Cashin do everything within their power and resources to try to address this situation. It's bigger than any one community. It needs to be a statewide conversation. But Adam, the reason why I think this is an issue to be discussed and could become a priority in the legislative session is entirely because Concord is no stranger to this. Portsmouth is dealing with challenges. But there are gaps between the people providing services, substance use, mental health, and shelter, that they're maxed out and they're understaffed. And yet there are many people out on the streets who may or may not want something specialized. You have to look at affordable housing, unique shelter opportunities, more substance treatment opportunities. There is a gap between what we're doing and what is needed, and that gap has to be filled. It's not an easy conversation, but it's statewide.
You mentioned the legislature, obviously that narrow division of the partisan majority-minority thing. How do you think that's going to work out with the potential for, you know, every session there are reps who move, they resign, unfortunately some of them pass away. We could see the majority flip at some point. This is a fascinating problem.
It is. You're a relatively young man, but you've been around there long enough to know that this is a really interesting dynamic in the New Hampshire House, with there literally being 1 or 2 seats on paper being the difference between the majority, because on any given week of the legislative session, you've got a couple of dozen, upwards of 30 lawmakers who simply can't make it. They're sick, they have an appointment, there's something going on, they're traveling. You could end up with any given week, who knows who the majority is going to be, and that will make Speaker Packard's work a lot more challenging, but it also makes, I think, Matt Wilhelm, the Democratic leader, an almost de facto deputy speaker. There's gonna have to be, for practical reasons, some unique collaboration we've never seen before. But I do agree with Holly Raymer's AP article, which says there's gonna be a lot less nonsense. The extreme conversations there won't be an appetite for it.
And of course, factions here and there
oh my gosh.
could arise. It's gonna be like whack-a-mole, because
no doubt.
Who knows who's going to have voice over the budget and those kind of things.
You could have a small handful of Republicans who believe in one thing so strongly that they could team up with the other side, and vice versa. So we're going to see some very interesting 3D chess in the politics of the New Hampshire House for the next 6 months.
One item there, the state primary date.
Yes.
It's not the First of the Nation primary, but there's been this talk of moving it back from September. I'm curious, do you think this is the session when we see more movement on this to say maybe a June primary?
So what I've at least heard is that both parties and the leadership are willing to have the conversation. It was oh so close last time around, but the governor said, listen, I've got some concerns about how we're doing this and when, so they have to figure it out. I have heard that the range of options includes backing it up to just August, so a late summer. Obviously, there's challenges there. June, before the kids get out of school, so that's a possibility. I've even heard some say, let's kick tires on May, which just backs up the entire state election process by several months. So they have some challenges, but there do seem to be enough voices on both sides that there will be a serious conversation about it. This could be the year.
Let's quickly touch on the First in the Nation primary.
Yes,
obviously, the Democrats have a real quagmire on their hands here. Does it become less of a problem, though, if Joe Biden decides to run for re-election?
For all practical purposes, yes. You essentially eliminate a Democratic conversation, and now it's all about the Republicans who have already chosen New Hampshire first. I know a Chris Sununu campaign for president changes the dynamic about whether New Hampshire's in his pocket for a win. I would say not necessarily, but it also means that, as we always do, second place, third place, fourth place, there's multiple tickets out of the First in the Nation primary. So we're still relevant, and I do agree that if the president decides to run for re-election, it slows that battle over who goes first on the Democrat side.
All right. Scott Spradling, thank you so much for the analysis and insight as always, and Happy New Year.
Thanks, Adam. You too.